All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So close, yet so far for the Jacksonville Jaguars as they had their fair share of opportunities to steal their divisional round game from the Kansas City Chiefs, but they were unable to seize the moment. I said going into this contest that the Jags needed to play a clean game in order to defeat the Kansas City Chiefs, and they did not. Jacksonville was unable to take advantage of the Patrick Mahomes injury that limited him in the first half of this game, along with two key turnovers on their part in the fourth quarter in Kansas City territory. Now, the Jags found out, and I said this going into this contest, that Kansas City is not the Los Angeles Chargers. And very rarely, especially in a postseason setting, are you going to get an opportunity to overcome your mistakes in the postseason? The Jags were able to do that against the Chargers, but obviously the Chiefs are a much better team. And with that said, you have to capitalize on your opportunities, which Jacksonville was unable to do consistently enough in this game. Now, Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence was 24 of 39 passing for two touchdowns with a touchdown and a pick. But of course, that was a costly pick. And then you think back to the fumble on the Kansas City side of the field when it looked like Jacksonville was going in for a touchdown. Two huge backbreakers. And even with the ankle injury, credit to Patrick Mahomes as he gutted it out. 22 of 30 passing for a buck 95 with two touchdowns. And he showed once again why he is one of the better quarterbacks in this era. Another backbreaker for Jacksonville and a big momentum shift for Kansas City was when Chad Henne came into this game in the first half and led Kansas City on a 98-yard touchdown drive. If you are Jacksonville, you cannot allow that to happen. Also, they allowed Travis Kelsey to get off in this game. 14 catches for 98 yards and two TDs. Now, Jacksonville, obviously, their season is done, but they had their opportunities, but they got to find a way to learn from this and be order in order to build off of this. Now, make no mistake about it. The future is bright for the Jacksonville Jaguars, led by Trevor Lawrence and, of course, head coach Doug Peterson. And we saw the difference that Doug Peterson made for this team and also for Trevor Lawrence because he made this team believe. Because last year under Urban Meyer, who should have never been hired in the first place, Trevor Lawrence was looking like he was well on his way to being a bust. And most importantly, Doug Peterson gave him confidence, even though I know he was the number one overall pick, had a lot of success at Clemson, but he gave him the confidence needed for him to succeed at the NFL level. And of course, not only Trevor Lawrence, but he had the other players on this team believing. And that is a big reason why Jacksonville rallied down the stretch, caught the Tennessee Titans, won the AFC South, and then also their big comeback win in Wild Card Weekend over the Chargers. Now, Jacksonville has done a good job so far in regards to putting talent around Lawrence. You see what they have at the wide receiver position with the likes of Zay Jones and Christian Kirk, bringing in Evan Ingram at tight end. And for me, it's to the point that players should want to come to Jacksonville and play with Trevor Lawrence, and that's for both sides of the football because obviously this young man is showing that he will give you an opportunity to win a game and win big games. And the blueprint is there for the Jags as far as being the team to beat in the AFC South for the next several years. You look at it, and with the rest of the teams in here, there are a lot of question marks because the Titans, they're at the crossroads, if you ask me, as a franchise, bringing in a new general manager. What are you going to do with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback? How much more does running back Derrick Henry have in the tank? A lot of questions there. The Houston Texans, what are they going to do in their front office? They also need a new head coach. They also need a quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts, they've got to find a head coach and they've got to find a franchise quarterback. So a lot of question marks there for a lot of teams. And if you're the Jaguars, your head coaching position is solidified. Your quarterback position is solidified. You have receivers around them. You have a young running back in Travis Etienne You have youngsters such as Devin Lloyd on the defensive side of the ball, and now it's just an opportunity for Jacksonville to continue to build off of this. And honestly, the Jags are set up to have their longest stretch of success since the Tom Coughlin days back in the late 90s. And you think about those teams, Mark Brunell at quarterback, Fred Taylor at running back, Keenan McCardell and Jimmy Smith at wide receiver. This is an opportunity for Jacksonville to get back to that, but they have to find a way to build off of that and seize the moment. And this is why it's going to be so important for this offseason as well as next season for Jacksonville to not regress. And they can't have Cleveland Browns syndrome. And I say that because you go back 2 years ago, the Browns were the quote unquote sexy team of the NFL. Baker Mayfield at quarterback, Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry at wide receiver. The Browns broke through, got to the playoffs for the first time since 1994, beat the arch rival Pittsburgh Steelers for their first playoff win since 1994. Pardon me, they got to the playoffs for the first time since 2002, excuse me, but they won their first playoff game for the first time since 1994. Got to the second round, had their fair share of opportunities at Arrowhead against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they came up short. And if you remember in that game, Patrick Mahomes got hurt again, and the Cleveland defense could not stop the Chiefs' offense led by Chad Henne. Fast forward to 2021, the Browns came into that season with very high expectations, were unable to live up to those, and now they've gone through a transformation process. I expect the Browns to be a little bit better in 2023, but nonetheless, people that I talked about, OBJ, Jarvis Landry, and Baker Mayfield, are no longer with that team. So if you are the Jacksonville Jaguars, you have to find a way to not take a step back, build off of this, because yes, you're a young team, but at the end of the day, you can't just sit up there and rest on your laurels. You go back throughout the history of the NFL. One thing that always, comes to mind for me and for a lot of people as well. You think about Dan Marino. Dan Marino got to the Super Bowl with the Miami Dolphins in his second year, lost to the San Francisco 49ers and Joe Montana. And a lot of people felt, well, this is the first of many trips to the Super Bowl for Dan Marino. Never got back there again. You think about that Cleveland Browns team that I just mentioned as well. So it's a scenario where, you know what, you get an opportunity, you got to go out there and seize the moment. You can't take it for granted. So this is why it's going to be important. But I look at the Jags with their quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. I said that when he played collegiately at Clemson. He proved why he should have been the number one pick in 2021. He is built off of this, and he is a star in the making for years to come, not just for Jacksonville, but the National Football League as a whole. So I think this offseason for the Jags is going to be all about continuing to put talent around Trevor Lawrence on both sides of the football, offensively and defensively. Jacksonville has shown that they have the talent and the tools in their cupboard to win the AFC South. But winning the AFC South is one thing. Now you got to find a way to keep up with those big boys in the AFC. And I've talked about this several times over the last couple of months as far as the depth of the quality quarterbacks on the AFC side. And this is why you got to keep up with the Joneses if you're there. Josh Allen with the Bills, Joe Burrow with the Bengals, Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs, Justin Herbert with the Chargers, Trevor Lawrence with the Jacksonville Jaguars, other young studs such as Kenny Pickett with the Steelers look like they have promise. And then, of course, Deshaun Watson with the Browns. We can keep going on and on and on and on. So if you're Jacksonville, it is imperative that you continue to put the talent around Trevor Lawrence to give you an opportunity to win in January. They got the tools to take care of it in September and October and November, but now it's all about January and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it's a step in the right direction for Jacksonville, but like I said, you cannot afford to take a step back. So let's see what this Jags front office will do to continue putting talent around Trevor Lawrence. Let's see how Trevor Lawrence continues to improve his game as well. Obviously he showed that he's a big game performer in college. He showed it in the wild card round versus the Chargers. But again, you got to seize the moment. He was unable to against the Chiefs. I think he'll be back. I think the Jags will be back. And I think we haven't heard the last of this team as they are going to be very formidable in the AFC for the coming years. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. Also, there's a sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.